Now, as the US presidential election draws closer, Indian Americans are voicing their priorities and expectations. Shubhendu spoke to Indian Americans in Atlanta on what matters most to them in these elections.
I just think they need more of a voice in government as well. Like, you don't see a lot of Indian Americans, in government. Now there are a few now that are coming up, but in general, compared to what the population we have here, I don't think we have enough representation.
I've seen various governments come and go, but one of the most important things for me in this particular election is the migrant issue. And for me, this is a big issue. And of course, the inflation that's happening, that's a big issue, where a lot of the Americans are not able to afford, even things like gas and food, and they have to make the choice. These are not the choices a country like America should be making.
I see that there are a lot of things which immigration is not able to do in this country because of visa issues and everything. So I see that students, so many kids come here for student visa, but because of the immigration H-1B visa, they have to go back, or else they end up paying so much fees for the student visa.
The people that are coming in now or over the past decade are still facing so many issues in spite of so much contribution to the economy and the development of this country, with finding a stable legal status here, work permits and immigration issues, and it's just taking longer and longer.
We Indians, we come from India and we get green cards and citizenship in a long process. We have to follow even paying the taxes and so much things. But the illegals, they just come in and they're getting everything in most of the states, which is the biggest problem for us.
Now, DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh joins us live from Atlanta and Georgia. Well, hi Shubhendu, the issue of migrants has been thrust into center stage by Trump's MSG rally and the subsequent firestorm that's been kicked up by Biden's disparagement. Now, will this become a big factor at this late stage of the race, particularly in a swing state like Georgia, where you are?
Hello, Gautam. A short answer, absolutely. We first have to look at the manner in which, as the election day is getting closer, the political rhetoric is getting sharper and bitter, and the discourse from both sides is touching its lowest bottom. Now, coming to the issue of migrants and illegal immigration, to answer your question in two parts. First, the issue of illegal immigration, yes, it is one of the biggest issues going into these elections. We've seen Donald Trump really riding on this issue as the most important issue that should determine the outcome of the elections. The rhetoric that has come out from his side, from him in particular, referring to immigrants, illegal immigrants as aliens, from the other of his supporters, what we saw at MSG, really very crass comments coming in, referring to a race or a country as a floating pile of garbage, which has invited a lot of backlash. And then Joe Biden also using very problematic terms to refer to all of Trump's supporters as garbage. Now, the illegal immigration continues to be an important issue. Some of the bites that we heard from the Indian Americans, we understand that America is a land of immigrants. About 14% population comprises migrants who've come from different parts of the world. But immigrants don't necessarily equate themselves with illegal immigrants. The migrants, Indian Americans, for example, who've come in, they've waited for a long time. Many wait for years or even decades to get a green card or a citizenship. On the other hand, they see illegal immigrants coming in without any law, any policy, any paperwork. And then they are a burden on the resources which are limited in a country like America, where there's so many migrants looking to make a life here. So in that sense, the immigrant community is also diverse. They have diverse perspectives. But yes, the very difficult, problematic comments that have come from the leadership, both the Democrats and the Republicans, it does consolidate their opposition in these elections. We are in Georgia. I'm in Atlanta, the capital of Georgia. This state is one of the very important swing states. Why? Because it's got a very potent, strong Republican base here, but also one of the largest African-American black population. One of the highest Asian American population is also living in Georgia. In Atlanta, you have very high number of black population. Elsewhere outside of Atlanta, you see a majority white population. So it looks like a red state with a blue dot in between is what many experts say. So in that sense, the manner in which that consolidation will happen in opposition to these very, very problematic comments is something we'll see in the outcome of the elections. Gautam?
All right. And also, Shubhendu, tell me now about two F factors. One is fear because of the intense contest and polarization. Are people worried about violence and intimidation during and after elections? And the second one is fatigue. Are voters tired of being bombarded by ads and commentary by now, particularly in battleground or swing states again?
Okay, let's first talk about the first F that you mentioned, fear. I must tell you that there is a certain palpable tension in the air as we are getting closer to the date of the elections. Not very visible, not that people talk about it, but there is a sense of apprehension, and therefore we also see a record number of early voting. A lot of early voters that I spoke with, they don't want to wait for the last day because they anticipate that the day could be difficult. It could be about queues, but it could also be about law and order situation. It's not just that. In a very systematic manner, the authorities, the poll authorities, in fact, have been gone on record to say that they've received threats from different sides, and therefore the security of poll stations, and this is quite unprecedented in American context, in American elections, many say. So the security has been increased. There are drone surveillance that has been planned on the final day of voting, which is November 5th. There are bulletproof glass enclosures that have been made at polling stations so that the poll staff, the voters who come in, they are secured in any manner. So these preparations also hint towards a certain apprehension about what is going to happen when the outcome and the final result is known. And talking about the fatigue part, it's a long drawn process. The campaigning has been intense, particularly as you mentioned in swing states. Here in Georgia, the campaigning has been, we see billboards, we see advertisements. I got a local number here to be able to communicate, and the campaign team, perhaps that network, thinks that I'm also a potential voter. So my number is also bombarded with messages of supporting Kamala Harris and supporting Donald Trump. I must come out and give my vote. I'm not a citizen here. But just an example of the man. And that kind of bombardment, mind you, has not we've not seen in New York or Florida, which are blue and red respectively. So the intensity of campaigning is also very high in swing states like Georgia. But many of the voters also therefore prefer to go for early voting. In that sense, they see that they would have fulfilled their responsibility in the run-up to the big day. And on November 5th, they would like to be at a place somewhere peaceful, maybe at home, enjoying developments on television. So in that sense, the early voting process has also helped the voters at least to tackle the fatigue of the big election day. But that has not really led the campaigning and the intensity of advertisement to go down.
Yes, certainly. I don't think a lot of people change their minds once they made them up as to which way they'll vote, which is why early voting has already crossed, I think, 51 million by now. Shubhendu, thanks a lot for joining us with your views on the subjects that I could take up with you in the limited time that we have.